In a lesson on the introduction to chlorine, we explained that a Swedish chemist known as Carl Scheele was the first to discover chlorine gas in the year 1774. He discovered the gas when he reacted hydrochloric acid with pyrolusite, a mineral containing manganese 4 oxide, to obtain a greenish-yellowish gas. Although there are different ways of preparing chlorine in the laboratory, in this lesson, we will learn how chlorine gas can be prepared in the laboratory using the same reactants that Scheele used. That is, manganese 4 oxide and concentrated hydrochloric acid. The diagram displayed here shows a laboratory setup that can be used for the preparation of dry chlorine gas. The first step in the preparation of this gas is to place the reactants into a round bottom flask. First, manganese 4 oxide, which is a black powdery substance, is placed inside the round bottom flask, followed by pouring concentrated hydrochloric acid into the flask through a thistle funnel. Now that we have the two reactants placed in the flask, the next step is to heat the mixture in the flask. On heating, you'll observe the formation of a greenish-yellowish gas. Here is the chemical equation for the reaction in the flask. Some traces of hydrochloric acid gas may be present in the chlorine gas, so that needs to be removed. This is done by bubbling the gas through water, as shown here. Since the hydrogen chloride gas is very soluble in water, it is absorbed and separated from the chlorine gas. The chlorine gas that escapes from the water is wet, so it needs to be dried. This is achieved by passing the wet chlorine gas through concentrated tetraoxosulfate 6 acid, which functions as the drying agent by removing traces of water from the chlorine gas. The dry chlorine gas escapes from the drying agent and is then collected in the gas jar through upward displacement of air, as it is heavier than air. So let's do a recap of the important points to note from this lesson. Chlorine gas can be prepared in the laboratory by heating manganese 4 oxide with concentrated hydrochloric acid. Traces of hydrogen chloride gas can be removed from chlorine by passing it through water. Chlorine gas can be dried by passing it through concentrated tetraoxosulfate 6 acid. Chlorine gas can be collected in a gas jar through upward displacement of air because it is heavier than air. I believe that you now understand how chlorine gas can be prepared in the laboratory. Looking forward to seeing you in the next lesson.